Good morning. This is Sweetie Berry with Between Us Girls. The Women of Dare Whimsy gather each Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock to discuss things that affect our lives as creative and gifted women. This week it's going to be a favorite topic because we all have to have it in our life, sleep and how to get it and how it affects us when we don't and what we do to protect our sleep as individuals, as family leaders, and as members of working teams where sleep is vital for our creativity and for our moods. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start with Dr. Edith Johnston, who's going to share with us what her perspective on sleep. She works with multi-gifted kids and adults, and what I mean by kids is they're multi-talented, and sleep is certainly a topic of interest for all of us in that space because we have so many ideas, so much exuberance, so much passion that often sleep becomes a hot topic of how to stay healthy, too. Good morning, Dr. Edith.
Good morning, sweetie. It's good to be here with the Women of Dare Whimsy. Yeah, sleep kind of is important. I know personally that without my sleep, I don't have the energy, I don't have clarity of thought, I don't have the motivation. I have more of a blue day versus a yellow day or a shiny day. And so sleep is really important. Also because many of the people I work with we're looking at, they have integrated into their lives as far as how their sensitivities go and their intensities go into anxiety, depression, manic depressive or mood swings as they see it as abnormal versus being a part of who they are. So sleep becomes a very important factor to manage all of those things. So it's important for us to learn techniques, and each of us will talk about this morning our different ways of managing that. But to start with, how to calm our mind down and calm our bodies down. That's the first one I would bring up. And so being able to say have a transition time, and transition time for every part of the day, but especially before you go to bed. So routines and being able to calm down yourself is very, very important as you prepare for bed. Hey, Gail, what's one of your particular techniques?
One of my techniques is, as you said, Edith, to turn off all the clutter around me that's going on. I have to calm everything down, quiet everything down, darken everything down, meaning turning off lights that are blaring above me, and just get into a soft, lighted mood. And so I keep a knitting project on hand. In fact, I keep several knitting projects on hand, and that rhythmic knit, purl, yarn over calms my brain down very well. That works for me to quiet down, to get that slower rhythm to my brain. That helps me to drop off to sleep. And you're right, sleep is critical. When I was much younger, I could go 3 or 4 days on several hours of sleep and not feel real good, but be able to function well enough. But now, as I'm growing older, it's critical that I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, or I become very irritable and depressed, a gloomy outlook on life. You know, the smallest things that are happening, not only in my life, but in the world, suddenly just explode into this critical mass. And that's not a very good way to live with that mindset. So I have to get the sleep to keep in a perspective of life is good, life is okay. And then I also, without sleep, and they say this is a physiological thing, I begin to crave carbs because they say you're trying to compensate for that adrenaline that is burning up your adrenal glands. And so I crave carbs, not the best carbs either, and if I do that, it's a vicious cycle. Lack of sleep, wanting the carbs keep me up again, and it goes round and round and round. Sarah, what is it that you do that keeps you able to go to sleep at night in the evening to calm down?
You know, this is something that I have really struggled with. Having the ability to go to sleep and stay asleep is something that, as a mind-dominated or intellectually dominated person, is very difficult because once if I don't take that time to calm down, like Dr. Edith and Gail talked about, I find that I am just wired and I can't get my brain to turn off. And if I haven't processed through those things that are frustrating or that I was trying to solve during the day and haven't given myself a place to take notes, then I feel like I'm processing those things all night long. So it does definitely help me to have a routine of dimming things down. I make sure that that I'm off electronics at least an hour before bedtime, so no television, no phone, no social media, no computer time, and I may read, scripture or some other book that doesn't have a storyline for me to have to follow necessarily all of the time. And also, I make sure that I take care of those bright lights, because it interrupts. That unnatural light that comes from electronics will interrupt your sleep patterns for sure. Melatonin has helped me in the past, and currently as well, and magnesium. So there are definitely some supplements that you can take that will help to calm your body down, your mind down, but also your muscles and everything down, because sometimes you find that if you haven't had sleep, you will go to bed tense, you'll wake up tense, and that is not healthy, for you. So looking into the physiological aspect of what your body needs, but also mentally and emotionally what your body needs to stay asleep, but also to go to sleep, has been really helpful. All right, so Sweetie, I think you're up next. Share with us some of your great ideas.
Sleep is something I've talked about for a lot of years with a lot of different gifted kids, adults, and folks in between, because it's a definite effector of the gifted mind. So many times that little children can hear things and take responsibility for problem solving or for fear that they may hear in the news, and that may keep them up worrying about how to solve the problems. I remember when I was young, and this is really telling, we had Russian bomb drills at school. Us can prepare for bombs to blast overhead, and my brothers would have times where they would be so worried about how to solve world peace that they wouldn't go to sleep at night. It would be something they felt personally responsible for. It's not unusual for me to be called in as a consultant to a classroom and hear parents or teachers talk about this child just doesn't need sleep. They don't need sleep, and they don't run on sleep, and they don't sleep. And that's just really never true. But it is true that some of us are naturally high energy, and our sleep patterns may be different. There really are patterns of how our bodies work, and the most natural ones involve 10 to 12 hours of sleep for children and cycles during the day of high energy and low energy. And sometimes we can artificially stimulate those with too much TV or too much activity that's exciting when it's time for our bodies to be slowing down. But for others like me, it may be that they need what would be a stimulant for somebody else to slow them down. A lot of you get up in the morning and drink coffee because it absolutely alerts you and puts you on high caffeine kind of a day. Caffeine for me is a relaxer. In fact, they laughed really hard when I was in Nashville yesterday because I had 3 cups of coffee at a breakfast, and everybody was going, "You're going to be wired for sound." I said, "No, I'm going to be mellow," because the more coffee I drink, the more mellow I become. Now, we don't want to use stimulants like coffee and caffeine to always be the answer, but you do need to be aware that sometimes that's what it is. Maybe that is what helps you calm down. I personally like lavender in a bathtub with Epsom salt. That's a way for me to really relax. It's really good for me to be in a routine. My husband and I put in a soundtrack from a movie every single night, 5 nights a week, and I'm asleep by the 12th minute. I know the play. I can completely go in my mind to where that play is, and I listen to that, and I'm out like a light in 10 minutes, 12 at the max. But the joke of that's been he's never slept, and the routine of that system has taught him to go to sleep as well. I'm very lucky. That high energy also means that I'm very exhausted a lot of the time, and so if I just close my eyes, I'm out. I mean, I have learned, I've lived in enough survival with filming and where you have to get up at 4 in the morning and be filming at 5, that if you get a chance to sleep, you better sleep because you're going to be up at 2 o'clock tonight filming again. And so it's almost like those guys who go to war. They learn to lay down and sleep when they're in safety to sleep. And production's like that when you're with startups or when you're in a studio. You can only film when the crew's there. And so if it's a break, you learn to close your eyes and rest because you got to go again. But part of the sleep cycle for all of us who are gifted and creative people is learning to turn off that brain. It could be that you're creating and you're in a space. I know my daughter Madison said yesterday, Mom, the only time I really can't sleep is when I haven't finished the creation in my mind. And if I can stop and identify where I'm going with it, then I don't have to do it physically. But if I'm in an open-end place in a picture, I can't sleep. I can't shut that off. I've heard kids say, I can't change the gear till I finish the assignment. I've heard friends say, until I have a structure outline of a paper I'm writing, I just can't turn it off. I would be anxious about it all night. So personally, I do the same thing. I have a pad by my paper, and I have a pad by my desk. And if something's bothering me on those rare occasions where I wake up with something on my mind, I write it down and know I can pick up right where I left off the next morning. Dr. Edith, when is it out of control? When are sleep situations out of control? I know the physical things for me are my health starts breaking down. I physically start getting sick. I may be more emotional, irritable, or tearful if I'm not getting enough sleep. But what are the things you see in life journey paths that when folks are not getting enough rest, what happens to their psyche and what happens to us as individuals outside of our health as well as our health?
I probably am going to say that the first thing that most of us notice is our emotional roller coaster or the intensity of the emotions. And there's total chaos in what our experience is. Then we become aware of, oh yeah, I do have more pain, physical pain. I am more tired. But it usually takes, 3 or 4 times of thinking about it, practicing, doing a technique that helps you become conscious of different things before your awareness is such that you go, oh yeah, there has been that change. But that chaos emotionally is really scary for most people. And I'm going to use the word scary because it is a fear. I'm out of control. I can't control myself. I can't see the end of this. I hurt so bad emotionally, or everything that's being done to me and said to me is so painful that it makes it difficult. And we can be healthy, normal people too. We don't have to have a dual diagnosis because that's what it is, because we just are intense people. And so we've heard through our discussion so far this morning, as everybody's sharing, is that there are different techniques. And so one of them is becoming aware and knowing and recognizing that. Another one I'll share, because we've had melatonin shared, we've had, music shared, we've had different things. I'll also share the flower essences. So Rescue Remedy, which is a calmer. It doesn't affect you chemically at all, but it will allow you to find that pause, that space. And I talk a lot about that to people too, because breathing, being able to find that pause and be able then to make choices. And that pause is partially what sleep is. Sleep gives us that time to rest, to restore, and to be able to then allow our bodies to come to a point of harmony. No, harmony is not the goal for every day, every moment. Harmony, that experience of that calm, is being able to know where it is and to be able to return to it. And sleep gives our body that reference point and also allows us that rejuvenation time to be able to go through it. There's more things to talk about, but let's hear what Gail has, is what she's thinking as far as where chaos enters her life and how sleep helps manage that.
That's a good question, Dr. Edith, because chaos is a part of all our lives to whatever degree. Sometimes, and in some people, the chaos is greater than it might be in my life. Sometimes it's lesser. But chaos is just a part of living. You're going to have things that are just going to upset you, get you off your routine, off your mental routine. But you and Sweetie brought up a good point about the stimulant thing. When I see people at say at the gas station where they're buying coffee first thing in the morning when they're going out to work, I often wonder, did they not sleep the night before, and so now they have to resort to that stimulant that they may not have the awareness. You are so right about the awareness of what works for our body, what is simply a palliative for a while, and what is really something that just does us in. Because say, for instance, you're someone like me, who if I were to drink coffee in the morning, then I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. Well, then I might think coffee the next morning will help me to jumpstart myself. If I did that over and over again, pretty soon I would be in dire straits, perhaps even hospitalized, because the awareness isn't there that I really need to stop the stimulus, figure out what works for me to be able to sleep, whether it's something, as you've mentioned, melatonin, or magnesium works quite well for me. And you need to find something that breaks that cycle, because if you don't have the awareness that something is seriously wrong, you may keep going down that path. And I know as gifted girls, we often do that. We just don't quite have the awareness that we have to stop that pattern and get on track with what is a healthy pattern for us. I think that's kind of the most difficult thing to discern, is to have that awareness and go from there. Sarah, tell us what you feel about the awareness of what keeps you from sleeping.
You know, I think sometimes it helps to have a good friend or an outside view to help trigger some of that awareness, because we will get into a routine and we're so unaware that we don't even have maybe the capability of being able to see what's going on that we're missing. And so it's been helpful for me to be able to talk through what I'm doing to good friends that I know have good patterns of health, and have some of that awareness in the questions that are asked, where I say, here's what I'm doing, I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong, and then have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you considered this? And so I think it's helpful for us to be able to communicate with others and to be able to have that openness, because I think sometimes when we have things that are going wrong in our lives, we don't want to share. We put ourselves, we're afraid, we're embarrassed, we think something's wrong and that we caused it, and we might be shaming ourselves or guilting ourselves. And so it's important that we be humble enough to say, this isn't working for me, and asking questions. And so that has helped me a lot, to be able to ask questions, to be able to do research, and then I can become more aware of maybe some options I wasn't aware of in the past. That's how I realized that maybe I needed, some amino acids and less carbs in the evening. And, it helped me to find out that maybe I needed to block some light and get some, an eye mask that helped me to get the light blocked during the day or during the night when I was sleeping. Sometimes, too, we run so hard that we are on really high mode when we go to sleep, and so it's helped me to take a nap after lunch, that siesta that some countries observe. It's helped me to take a nap in the afternoon, so that way in the later afternoon and early part of the evening I can be on a balanced, on this balanced energy level, and then I can prepare for sleep again, rather than being so strung that I can't calm down in the evening. So awareness has been triggered for me by being humble enough to ask questions and being willing to receive those answers from other people and get the support that I need. And I think sometimes we think we need to have all the answers as gifted girls, and we might be too embarrassed to ask for help. But that's been important to my health. How about you, sweetie? What do you have to share about that?
One of the things we're going to share on our Thursday blog is that there are just lots of checklist kind of things you can do to kind of sort things out. For me, when I'm working with public school populations and EDU-type populations at colleges, one of the first questions I ask is, what are the symptoms for you when life is going well? When it's going well, what does it look like? And they'll start talking about their routines and their busyness and their things. I said, and what happens when you crash? Because a lot of times our gifted and creative personalities are such that it's all or nothing, that it's passion or it's car wreck. And so when they start talking about that languaging, I hear different patterns of their structuring their days. You know, when I'm in soccer season and I'm playing in the band and I'm taking 18 hours at college, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and it works for me, and I can fly high, and it lasts for about 16 weeks, and right after exams I collapse. You know, for some people that's real. I know in my own cyclic world, when my high creativity projects happen, I sleep better at night, I have more productivity during the day, but those can only last about 7 weeks, and then I need a respite time. I need a time of 2 to 3 weeks where I'm completely off schedule except for whatever performance or whatever exam or whatever I have to do, filming that I have to do, because my body works in those cycles. And likewise, there are some very simple things to check that really affect us. Sometimes it's as easy as the light on the TV kept us up. Sometimes it's a difference in the temperature you're sleeping under. My family, all of my children, do better if they're under weighted blankets. They do better with a cotton blanket in the summer that's heavy, that somehow secures them to relaxing into sleep, kind of like a weighted vest does for some autistic kids. We all, in my family, have valued a really dark room. We all have valued turning off electronics at least an hour and a half before we attempt sleep. Now, I listen to something right before I go to bed, but that doesn't work for most of my family. You know, it's also true to start listening to the rhythm of your world, because we get so task-driven often as a gifted person that we just barrel through it. But there are more pleasant ways to experience the boundaries in your life. For me, music is one of them. What I call traveling music. When I'm on a hard project, I have several CDs of what I call traveling music, and they're background, quiet, beautiful orchestrations of music that have no words or no singers. And I can put that on, and it takes me to a relaxing zone of work. Likewise, there are just some foods I don't eat right before I go to bed. I know I'm going to be up with it. I know they're super excitable foods for me. I know that when I work with children, they're easy to tell us what they need. You know, they tell us through the way that they talk, the way that they move. But most of all, I ask people, how are you doing with health? Are you catching a lot of colds? Are you having every boat that goes by during the school year? Those are indicators to me that your body's working on stress if it's happening. And you're working on the edge of the what I call the 5,000 RPM red zone. You know, if you run a car in the 5,000 RPM zone to 8,000 RPMs per minute, it's going to burn up the engine. When we're running our health on not enough sleep, we burn up our health. Our adrenal glands start having stress, can maintain it for a little bit, but pretty soon systems start shutting down, and the first one that gets shut down is the ones that fight disease. So we start picking up viruses. We start picking up colds. We start injuring ourselves more easily, or if we have an injury, it doesn't heal as quickly. Those are indicators that sleep is a culprit in your life, and we better give it more time. I love Sarah's conversation about naps, because that's something I do every single day. I'm up at 4:30 or 5 and working, so at 1 o'clock or 12:30, you can expect to see me with my head down or laying down for about 20 minutes to recoup some of that super early morning time and restart my afternoon. And likewise, I stop by 2 o'clock. On a good day, I'm really stopped by 2 o'clock. On a filming day, I may have to go back to work at 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, but there's a 2 or 3 hour nap period in there, because naps can re-energize and revitalize our ability to not run in that 5,000 red zone. It's just so valuable to know what works for you. It may be your sleep is affected by your food, your exercise choices, your time management choices. It may be affected by how you release stress, and that's one thing I want to quickly talk about and popcorn around because we don't have a lot of time left. What are things you do to brain dump, to get things out of your mind, to release the stress or anxiety of things that you may overthink about as a gifted and creative woman? And what are your techniques personally for doing that? I'm going to start with Sarah, because I know she has a lot of great ideas in this space. She is a dear friend, and she has regularly shared with me another way that she brain dumps to get this stuff just out of her head. Sarah.
I have a system I call Stickies and Spirals, and it has different categories with different colors of sticky notes to allow me to brain dump or take notes on what's in my brain according to different categories of my life, whether it's personal or spiritual or work or family life. There's different different things that I can write down, and I spend often an hour a day just writing down all the different thoughts that are in my head so that I can process through those, and those thoughts won't keep me up at night. Sometimes I'm able to do that in the morning to get my day started, but most of the time it's in the later afternoon, maybe a little bit in the evening, that I can work to start decompressing my brain, if you will, so that it can sleep. And the other thing that I love to do is I love to record my thoughts. It helps me to almost have someone listening to me, and so I use my phone to be able to record some of my thoughts and think about what it is. I'll listen back to that recording and be able to hear, oh, that's what I'm so concerned about, and the tone of voice perhaps will signify what's going on for me as well. I also will journal. That's very, very helpful. And I also take time to share gratitude. Gratitude is something that's really helpful in relieving stress, but helping you to transform your focus of stress to something that is one of a grateful heart. And so writing down things that I'm grateful for each day helps me to take my brain from a place of negativity to a place of positivity and seeing how great things are in my life. So all of those things allow me to let go of the stress, as well as process through the thoughts that are in my brain, as well as organize to help me to be more productive throughout the day and throughout the month, because we also have cycles throughout the month as well that are stressful for our bodies and for our minds. So Dr. Edith, I know you have some great ideas as well to share. Can you share those with us?
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. Well, one of the things I do is watch my breath. We talk about meditation, but it can be just a really simple thing. Just being aware of your breath. Because then in the breathing, you figure out, is it shallow? Is it rapid? Is it a deep breath? Is it going too fast, too rapid, so that we can think through what our breathing is? And the physiological benefit is it does give us more oxygen, which gives more oxygen to our brain, which allows it to actually relax. Which can, even though the thoughts are coming in, they'll be clearer, they'll be more organized, they'll be slower, and things like that. So watching the breath is one. I like to do mandalas, and that's a circle art. And I do it again in a reverse type form. I do it on black paper with white pencils, and that gives me then a chance to be, as Sarah was saying, the gratitude thing, I'm drawing from within and drawing the light and letting the light come through. So it's a way to experience that positive, that excitement, that joy, and allowing it to flow through me. So that's another technique that I use. Going back to napping, I like my power naps. I eat my lunch, I take a 10-15 minute nap, and then take about a 10-minute walk. That way I've gone through a cycle of decompressing and then bringing it back up to an energy level. So life is about cycles, whether it be daily, monthly, and that whole nightly thing and our routines, and each one of us to find that practice that brings us to that point of knowing ourselves, being aware of ourselves, and being able to actually manage our cycles so that we can have that life we so want. Hey, Gail, what do you have to say?
Well, I know we're about out of time here, and everyone has said such wonderful things. All I would like to add is the whole deal about awareness comes up again. I am very much with Dr. Edith, is that breath thing. I know when I'm spinning, I know when I'm stressed out and in anxiety, I will suddenly realize that I'm holding my breath. That is the signal for me to just stop. Stop the spinning thoughts, stop the spinning activity, and either take a nap, take a walk, watch what I'm eating that day, but I have to simply stop that and get back in my cycle of breathing well so that I can decompress from that stress.
Love it. These have all been great ideas. I think the most important thing is the awareness that a lot of people struggle with sleep, and there are a lot of options to try. You know, so many times we think we're the only one. and particularly we're gifted and talented, that overthinking process and overpassion and over creativity comes into some place, just to hear that that's a normal part of the routine for most of us. It's really good to have community around us and to have these ideas to share. We share here every week on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. at Between Us Girls as part of the Women of Dare Whimsy. On Thursdays, you'll see us continue this conversation in writing. None of us are gurus, but we share our particular perspective on the topic of the week, and then we have a link out to our own spaces, to our blogs or our websites if you need more information on our specialties. We'll hope you'll join us there at darewhimsy.com. We look forward to being with you. If you'd like to be on guest on this show, if you'd like to bring your area of expertise for gifted and creative women, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to being with you next week. Thanks again.